I'd like to call the meeting of the Franklin Redevelopment Commission to order. And the first item on the business it's on the agenda is to welcome Paul Buning to the Redevelopment Commission. And Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I came to Franklin in 1996, same time as the mayor here. From Greensburg originally, went to Franklin College. I worked for First National Bank out here by the interstate. Started working for them in 2000, so I've been there 15 years. I've been at this office here in town for roughly 13 years. So, my wife is a teacher at Northwood. We've got 4 kids in Franklin schools. And happy to be here.
Paul also, when he was in college, played 4 years of varsity basketball, had a good career there. Has a rough game of basketball that he plays, but doesn't ever call fouls. So anyway, welcome, Paul. We'll do, I guess we need to do the roll call first. I'm out of order here, but Brian Deppy, present. Keith Fox, here. Paul Buning, Bob Hukins here. Danny Bogg is not here. Richard Wertz.
Here, Danny had some car trouble, is on his way.
Okay. We do have a quorum. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of February 16th, 2016.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Well, I'm going to get out of order real quick here, and the first item I want to bring up is I want to get the Headsco matter before us, and I know that we have Eric Prime here, who's a representative of Headsco. I'm going to call on legal counsel Rob Shavstall to kind of walk us through where we are at this point.
Eric, you want to help me out?
Sure.
I can summarize it that on the shell building project, before the closing occurred from Redevelopment to Headsco, the property was reassessed, and that caused a $55,000 unexpected tax burden on Headsco. That's the short story.
Yeah, that's the short story. We were here a few months ago and made a presentation on this issue. What happened was, as I'm sure all of you know, Indiana pays real estate property taxes in arrears. The property that the shell building was built on was farm ground prior to that. So it had been assessed all those years at farm ground rates, so just a few $100s a year in property taxes. Shell building was constructed, I believe, in late 2013, and then sat until we closed in October of 2014. So the 2013 taxes that were payable in 2014 were still the farm ground rates. But a new assessment occurred, unbeknownst to anybody that was involved in the transaction, in late 2013 or early 2014, the spring of 2014. And a new tax assessment number was sent out to the owners. So it either went to the city or it went to Runabout, but we don't know where that went. But at any rate, when the title company went to pull the numbers at closing in October of 2014, the spring 2014 payment that had been made was for just a few $100s, again, because it was paid in arrears and was the old rate. The fall payment hadn't even been paid yet in 2014, but again, that number would have been a few $100s. So the purchase agreement between Headsco and Runabout called for a proration of the property taxes for that calendar year for 2014, which would be payable 2015. All right, so what happened was at closing, a credit was given for the first 9.5 months to Headsco for those farm ground rates. So just a few $100s were allocated in Headsco's column on the HUD, because that's all that was of record at that point. And then closing took place October of 14. Now we fast forward to spring of 15 when the next property tax payment is due. It gets hit at the new assessed rate that nobody knew about, and all of a sudden the taxes went from a couple $100 to $32,000 a half. And the difference was that the value of the ground prior had been about $32,000 to $34,000 total value of the ground. The reassessment of just the shell building without the build out that was eventually done, but just the shell itself was $2.1 million. So, but we just got whipsawed because of the odd, the way Indiana works, paying things in arrears. It didn't get picked up at closing because the new rate had not gone into effect yet. And so basically Hetzco got shorted about when you do the proration. Again, it was $32,000 a half, $64,000 for the year, but they were only entitled to 9.5 months of that. So it's about $50,213.79 is the magic number. But I think everybody agrees. I know we've had conversations with Redevelopment and their council. Their position is that their agreement with the city was a pass-through for all holding and closing costs. And if the number had been calculated properly, it would just would have been passed through to the city. And that's kind of where we are again, is that just back to this point where nobody anticipated this, nobody knew there was, our side of the table didn't know there was a new assessed value. The title company didn't pick it up because they couldn't, it wasn't a record. And here we are.
What I'd like to say to do this morning is, certainly if you have questions, we'll talk about those things, but ultimately what I'm trying to get to today is a motion to set this up for next month as a resolution to reimburse Hetzco for those taxes.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Other than, I think had the building not been sold for another year or, longer, I mean, we were fortunate in that the building sold when it did. Had it gone longer, it would have been billed to Redevelopment, which would have been passed through the Redevelopment Commission as part of the economic development agreement, or that agreement that we had with Redevelopment at that time. Any other questions or comments? Again, this is to move it to a resolution next month, and then we'll have a public hearing and then action at that time. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, folks.
All right, under new business, we're going to start with south of downtown redevelopment discussion, and I'll ask the mayor to turn it over.
Good morning. Yeah, I saw Danny walking down the street, so just saw Danny walking in the door, so he's here. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit and introduce some folks here in a couple moments, but this kind of dates back to my first year or so in office. For those of you that are familiar with the Stellar Community Grant Program, internally we had put together a proposal and submitted that to the state, and it involved one building and a neighborhood in downtown, just south of downtown Franklin here. The building is what everyone around town knows as the Garment Factory. More recently, it's been owned by Greenland Moving and Storage and has been used for long-term storage for their customers and their clients. We were not fortunate enough to receive that funding, and so we kind of put that project on the shelf for about a year and a half. But internally, we continue to talk about the potential of what that building has. And so for the last 18 to 24 months, we have been meeting with developers, showing the project, showing the building to various folks, from local developers to the local being Franklin to Indianapolis and Northside developers. Quite a bit of interest in it, and we kept coming back to one group because one, they're local, two, I think they know Franklin better than anyone out of all these groups, and they presented a project that I think made the most sense as far as mixed use. A lot of the projects we saw were for all retail, all office space, all residential, and I think our goal and our dream was always that it would see some sort of mixed use. Didn't know how it was going to end up shaking out, but always wanted to see some sort of mixed use. Garment Factory, for those that have become a little bit more intimately aware of that project or that building, it has a ton of character. and it's right on the creek, right on the largest park, especially in downtown. And it's a large building, 65,000 square feet, and has a lot of history to it. Unfortunately, recently that history's been covered up. So we continued to work, started talking with Billy and Todd with Bemis Group, really started having conversations with them last fall of 2015. Everyone kind of broke away and did their thing for the holidays, and we kind of reconvened back in January and started talking seriously about what this project could look like and what the investment would be from both sides. Rerolling back to June of 2015 when we issued the TIP bond, the $15 million TIP bond, we had separated out $2 million for downtown redevelopment projects. A big chunk of that obviously is for east side development, redevelopment, and economic development, which is currently going on. The $2 million for the downtown redevelopment was really set aside for 3 projects in my mind. Two of those projects have already been vetted out publicly. One is, of course, the Artcraft. The second one is 351 East Jefferson Street, which is ongoing. And the other one, in my mind, that I thought was one building that was completely underutilized in our community, is the garment factory. And of those dollars that were available, I had decided that to get a project and looking at what the requests were from other developers, that the remaining dollars, and then possibly and then some, would be necessary to get this project off the ground and to get an entire building at that time redeveloped. In conversations with Billy and Todd over the last several weeks, the project's kind of grown and includes the entire block of Wayne Street. And so I'm happy and proud to introduce 3 gentlemen that are here this morning. Let's talk a little bit more about the project. And I'll be more than happy to continue on and talk about Wayne Street as a road project as well. But this morning we have Billy and Todd Bemis with us. Paul and Casey from Oak and Barrel are here to talk about their project. So, gentlemen, we have a slideshow. We also have handouts with all of the slideshow that's on the screen for you all. And then a Wayne Street parking sketch rendering. And I think we also have some poster for you as well.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Billy Bemis with Bemis Group, and Todd Bemis is passing out the material that the mayor spoke of. So what we first want to do is say good morning and thank you for having us, and appreciate your time and consideration for this project this morning. As the mayor said, we've spent several months looking at this project, developing this project, and envisioning this project. And so today we want to present it to you. First off, just want to introduce our company, Bemis Group, that is a 30-year-old company that's based here in Franklin. We have multiple commercial properties from the north side off of 31 in the industrial park, all the way through to downtown, as well as a few properties in the Greenwood area as well. Like I said, about 30 years in business, office buildings, warehouses, manufacturing. We also do third-party work, meaning we do GC or general construction or tenant build-outs for other property owners and business owners, etc. So we have quite a lengthy list of clients, both here and community-wide. A little bit about Todd. He is a graduate of Franklin College, founded Bemis Group in '86, been a resident for Johnson County for 25 years, and as you'll see on his as well as mine, we're both involved in several philanthropic and various civic organizations. I'm a graduate of Indiana University and Johnson County resident for about the last 20 years or so. Some of the successful projects in our minds, and I hope in the city's mind, that we want to touch on, or a lot of them are buildings that were either vacant or completely underutilized at the time. The first one dates back about 15 years ago, almost 16 years ago, 2100 Earlywood Drive, which was vacant for many years. It housed Berg Electronics prior to that. We acquired that, I believe, in 2000, and moved the existing John Deere dealer that was on International Drive to this facility, who continues to lease space there and be a great community partner with the John Deere dealership. And in turn, we acquired the property on International Drive that they vacated, and we've done some different, brought some different tenants, et cetera, there. Also on this property where John Deere is located, there was 8 acres or 9 acres behind the building to the north that was farm ground essentially. So a couple of years after we had it, we developed it into the Blue Chip Industrial Park, an 8-lot industrial subdivision, basically for owner occupants in the manufacturing business. And all of those lots are developed and full and add tremendous tax base to the city of Franklin. The next one is the 700 International Drive. This is a property that we work with a longtime existing client that actually we built the building in Blue Chip, had probably one of our longest standing business relationships with Greenwood Machine. We brokered the deal of the former Franklin Plastics, which was at 700 International. That property had sat vacant for some time, 60-some thousand square feet, 68,000 square feet. And we knew that Greenwood Machine was expanding and needed space. We presented this to those owners and said, here's an opportunity. They were a little reluctant given the condition and the shape the building was in, but they saw our vision and invested, and since then, many more thousands of dollars in equipment and employees. But the next slide, I think, shows some pictures of before and after. The one on the left shows what Greenwood Machine and Franklin Plastic looked like, and then after the development or redevelopment and construction, it's a vibrant and great facility here in Franklin. The next one's just a couple, that's an indoor picture of that same building. The next project we wanted to touch on is 2797 North Morton, that has our name up there, but now houses Johnson County Development Corp. In that corner suite in a much nicer space than what we had. But we bought 2 properties behind there. Was Indiana Diecast, another 26,000 square foot building that had been vacant. It was owned by a bank. It had some environmental issues. It sat along with 2 acres on US 31, completely underutilized. That was before 2000. That was acquired, renovated, sold, and in the meantime, we used the 1 acre lot up front and developed it into this retail center that's been full since we've had it. And then just to the east of that, in between the 2 buildings, sold a property and built a building that now houses a sergeant or air tonic, which also employs several people here in Franklin. Specifically to downtown, some of the projects we wanted to touch on that we hope shows that our vision, our creativity, and our quality, and our commitment to Franklin, not just to the industrial area up north. The old former Rhodes True Value Hardware store, now current J.P. Parker building, as mentioned, was a Rhodes True Value from, I believe, the early 70s up till we bought the building. It had sat vacant for about 3 years prior to us acquiring it. We did some environmental cleanup, provided new specifications, redeveloped that, made it a multi-tenant facility, and up until recently, that facility has been full with all the existing tenants in that building. Added also some downtown parking, public parking, that was desperately needed in that area. The next building is just a couple buildings to the north of us here. What was the former Hazlet, now the Daily Journal, Gray Goat retail facility. That one was vacant for 14 years and an eyesore. I think we can agree on that. It was in complete disrepair. I know the city had several issues with the previous owners in maintaining that structure, stabilizing that structure. We acquired that and did a major renovation from facade work to roof work, etc. And then finished that with all brand new space. There are 3 retail tenants on the bottom space, and a Daily Journal and their group moved from US 31 to downtown. So there's a couple of pictures before on the left and finished on Water Street, and that is on East Court. And then finally, the old former Don and Donna's, 18 East Jefferson Street, now is the home of Greek's Pizzeria and Tap Room. That building sat vacant once Don and Donna's closed for a few years, was on the market. We acquired that building and did a major renovation and remodel for the Tapp family, who brought Greek's Pizzeria and Tap Room to Franklin. So there's some finished pictures of that and a few on the left of the before. And we think this is important just to show the investment we've made, not in the entire city of Franklin, but what we've made in downtown property, just in these 3 properties over the last several years, is a private investment of $3.4 million. So the results of what we want to call our vision, our financial investment in the development, is a mix of 7 brand new tenants, brand new businesses to Franklin. When I say that to downtown, I should rephrase that because Daily Journal was already a Franklin business. But you'll see those 7 tenants are now located in one of those 3 downtown buildings. And Daily Journal is the only one that was an existing business. The other 6 were brand new businesses that started up or were brought to Franklin that were otherwise not here. 2 of them at the bottom, JP Park and Flowers and Airtan, are two businesses that relocated from a previous building or buildings to 377 East Jefferson Street. Additional results from this vision and our investment. Currently, those properties are assessed, and we pay over $41,000 in property taxes, and that's prior to, similar to what Eric Prime just spoke about earlier, the assessment on Greek's Pizzeria. We know that now that remodel has occurred, that unfortunately those taxes will increase, and that $41,370 will be higher as we go forward. Todd did the PowerPoint, I apologize. He wanted to bring a notepad and a yellow paper, so I talked him out of it. And so what we think too is those buildings, as we mentioned, with the new retailers and shops, it brought options for Franklin residents. It brought additional attractions. There's so many great things going on in our community, but we think that those added to that for non-Franklin residents to visit our downtown, to spend their dollars. And we hope and think that it also spurred some additional development with the investments that we've made over the years and many of the other property owners, as well as Franklin Development Board and RDC. And how we did one of these projects is just through what we're here today to discuss, a public-private partnership. The redevelopment of 25 East 4th Street, which is where the Daily Journal is housed, was one of the early, I believe, public-private partnerships at that time between the City of Franklin, Redevelopment Commission, as well as the Franklin Development Corporation. And the result of that partnership is a completely updated, modern facility with new tenants in the heart of downtown that has a higher assessed property tax value and added vibrancy, more vibrancy to the downtown area. So as the mayor discussed, our new or proposed public-private partnership consists of just south of here. The downtown and the port, from the courthouse to the surrounding area, has been transformed by streets, sidewalks, lights, bollards, new building renovations, etc., new tenants. So we just see this process continuing to grow, and the project has piqued our interest is just south of here, what we like to call, or want to call, the Youngs Creek Neighborhood Redevelopment. And Todd's throwing a couple, putting a few placards up now, but we have a few that we'll show here. Basically, the area is Wayne Street on the north end, Home over here on the east end, and then Main Street on the west end. Where the red dot is, that is 151 East Wayne Street. That is the building that the mayor referred to that Greenwood Moving and Storage currently owns. And then to the south is Youngs Creek.
There more, Sir Billy. I mean, it's the
Sure.
Cherokee.
So our vision for the project, like I mentioned earlier, just extends what already is going on in all the revitalization downtown. We want to enhance the views and enhance the scenic Providence Park. It focuses on the currently underutilized 60,000 square foot warehouse. It also encompasses 4 rental houses, 1 owner-occupied residence that currently altogether, those 6 properties contribute $13,190 to the tax rolls. There's a picture currently of what the Greenwood Moving and Storage or the garment factory currently looks like. Fortunately, we got the snow today, but the homes right here, just one of those is an owner occupant, and then the other 3 are residential rentals. This property that I will show in a moment is just north of, it's on the southeast corner of Water and Wayne Street, actually the northeast corner. And that property, actually, when we started and got the other building under contract, that one was already on the market, and so that is part of the project as well. So the red outline here shows the properties that currently Bemis Group has under contract to purchase. The 199 South Water Street is the building on the north side of Wayne Street, and then the building south of Wayne Street consists of the 3 rentals, residential, and the garment factory building. Again, talking about the vision and trying to see something before it's there is what we see is ownership again in local hands. The continued revitalization of downtown, completely renovate that building, the 60,000 square foot building, both inside and out, and convert it from an existing warehouse to a vibrant retail multi-use space. And then also our goal is to, which we will talk about one here in a minute, is a new business and the creation of jobs in that building. We want to highlight the trailway in Youngs Creek. We think that, not so much the trailway, because we know many people use that, but the creek. What a tremendous feature that the city of Franklin has in basically its downtown that many of us or many others don't know that is there. We want to highlight that, redevelop that whole area, professional landscape, beautify the banks, an area that is just that ties into already the Providence Park and what that has to offer. We want to help create new public parking for the south side of downtown, and we have some slides that will show that in a moment. We want to also enhance the community events and festivals that all the groups already are doing in Franklin. The majority of those tend to be outside on days like today when it's sunny and warm and in the summer. But in the wintertime, we see a need or an opportunity to bring those people back, both residents and non-residents, to come to Franklin and enjoy themselves, spend money with all the other retailers and shops. We want to promote Franklin or continue to promote Franklin as a destination for residents in the surrounding counties. And I think this also hopefully will help establish Franklin as a leader in our area in public-private, successful redevelopment partnerships. We showed you slides earlier of the existing Greenwood Greenwood storage, the undergarment. And this is a conceptual drawing that we work with our architect, who I don't believe Dan is here today, but I want to recognize Dan as a partner of Todd and mine for the last several years, and he's been instrumental in many of the projects that we highlighted earlier. And through many conversations and meetings and walkthroughs of the building, this is the rendition of how we visualize the remodel of the garment factory. This slide shows the proposed Wayne Street upgrades and public parking. The mayor may discuss this a little bit later, but the peak areas on there show some improvements to Wayne Street, much like Monroe Street occurred in the last year or so. And then to the west of the building, you'll see the new parking. Our plan, as we mentioned, all of that is under contract with us currently. We hope to close those properties and then turn those back over to the city to be turned into a public parking lot for the south edge of downtown. The garment factory facility, in the past, we believe, it's 3 structures. We believe the first one was built in 1925 on the east end, one on the west end, we believe in 1944, and then what we're calling the connector building in 1954. That originally, we believe, housed the Baronet Mills Garment Factory, which was instrumental in providing equipment for the armed services during the war. It also employed many seamstresses that manufactured clothing for men, women, and children. And then most recently, there was a company in there prior to Greenwood moving and storage called KG. And just a little fun fact, all the uniforms in the movie Hoosiers were produced there. So what we see and what our plan for the renovated garment factory is the multi-use, 3 segments. The garment factory events, garment factory marketplace, and residences at the garment factory. The garment factory events will provide convention space for corporate clients, for seminars, for special events, for indoor festivals, both for third party, those that want to rent the facility for whatever their occasion might be, as well as this business entity creating its own events to attract residents and non-resident residents to the community and to utilize the space. So we think both it will diversify options for both our corporate clients as well as our residential to entertain and or host events. The mayor recognized Mr. Casey earlier, but I want to introduce him again. Juan Casey is a restaurateur from Franklin, owner of Open Barrel Brewing, or from Greenwood. Been trying to get him down here for years, so. Of Greenwood, 22-year-old business. He's the second oldest microbrewery in the state of Indiana, and has a tremendous reputation both in our community as well as statewide for the operation and his vision many years ago in the microbrew business, beer brewing business. So Juan has partnered with us, will be a tenant and the owner of Garment Factory Events. We'll bring him up in a moment that he can ask or answer some questions, maybe discuss a little bit more about his plan and vision for the Garment Factory Events. As you'll see, it'll be over 12,000 square feet of space, gatherings of small gatherings up to at least 500 people, on-site catering that Juan's business will oversee and employ those individuals. Obviously, a full-time or a full commercial kitchen. It will be set up in a way that it can occupy multiple events simultaneously, as well as the area that we talked about on the creek. It'll have landscaped outdoor gathering spaces, new patios, new decks, etc. The Garment Factory Marketplace will provide conceptually 10,000, maybe 15 to 20,000, we're not sure yet until we get into this a little bit more, of retail space. Our hope, again, as we showed on one of the previous slides, in the addition, or some of the retail space that we've created over the years, our intent and our goal is to attract new business, much like Juan and Garment Factory Events. We want to bring new business, unique and special businesses, retail shops to Franklin. We don't want to go out and knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, we've got a new space next door, come over and lease from us. That's not our intent, nor has that been our practice or our policy. So we're really hoping that with the vibe and creativity down there, that this will attract some other options and some other tenants to Franklin. And the mayor mentioned about the structure. It is unique. It will have exposed wood floors. The timber beams, etc., will be exposed, and we're excited to highlight that. Residences at the Garment Factory will be single-level or two-level condominiums for sale owner occupants. Will also include secure parking. There's a full basement under this entire facility, and we see that certainly being used for some additional storage for those residents and the commercial users, as well as some indoor parking garage space for those patrons and owners as well. Unfortunately, the building doesn't look like those two pictures yet, but we'll give you a feel for the idea of what we're envisioning with the old factory windows and the views out to the park and the creek. And the RDC public, is that the one, Ron, here's the one before that.
That's it.
Okay. The investment breakdown, the property acquisition for the properties that Bemis Group plans to redevelop and renovate are the garment factory building at 101 East Wayne Street, and the building just to the north that we discussed is 199 South Water, is $720,000. The acquisition for the rental properties in the one single-family dwelling on the south side of Water west of the building is $253,000, with a balance of about $302,000 that we're asking for help on with the renovations of the 60,000 square foot building. The building currently, structurally, is in pretty good shape, although it is bare bones. As I mentioned to somebody, they say there's a restroom in there. We've not seen the restroom in the building. There's minimal heat because there is some personal storage in there. There is an old freight elevator, but all of that, there is a sprinkler system, but all of those systems, mechanics, windows, doors, will be new. And so that is a total investment that we're here to discuss with the Redevelopment Commission of $1.275 million. You'll see Bemis Group's private investment and capital breakdown, broke that down into just some budget items right there from in group anything that you'll see: elevator upgrades, new elevator, fire suppression systems, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, doors, windows, roofs, gutters. For the event, garment event side, west side of the building, a commercial kitchen needs to be installed, audio visual, alarms and cameras in the garage, etc. So the total investment that Bemis Group plans to put in that facility is $2.5 million. So the total investment in the public-private partnership is $3.775 million. The breakdown, again, the 2.5 and 1.275. I mentioned this earlier, the 6 properties currently that we have under contract that are part of this neighborhood redevelopment currently pay $13,190 in property taxes, and projected property taxes after the redevelopment, not to mention the amenities of the new parking, etc., is a minimum of $52,000 a year in taxes generated off of the garment factory building. Actually, a little bit more when we throw in the 199 South Water. Other impacts, as we mentioned, just total beautification of that side of town, extending the revitalization from the courthouse south, additional parking, and how we hope this will happen is a partnership with this board and the city to make this a reality and to increase the tax base and continue to make Franklin a destination. So we appreciate your time. I'm going to bring Quan up here as well. I'm sure that we're open to any comments or questions, and also the mayor, if you have anything else to add. Thank you.
I'd just like to state that I am very excited about the project. Like I said, I've been in a growing business in Indiana for almost 22 years. When I was a 29-year-old young man, I had a vision of opening a craft brewery. It's similar to on the West Coast, what we didn't have in Indiana. And I haven't been just excited for a new project since then. I've been approached by many cities to expand the brewery, open a second location, and I kind of put it off. Part of it just didn't excite me. Other part didn't fit the community feel to it. As you know, I've been a community member of Greenville for 22 years, and this project excited me for that reason. It's a part of the community. I see a vision of this project event center, putting Franklin, out in front of everybody. I haven't seen a unique space like this, a vision like this in Indianapolis or, surrounding counties. I think it'd be a really unique feature, really enhance the redevelopment of Franklin. Bring a lot of new people to Franklin and bring new business to Open Barrel as well.
I guess I'd just like to say, I've had the opportunity to talk with Todd and Billy and the mayor. I agree, I mean, this is an exciting project. I think it's a project that, when we look at what we're about ready to do on the east side of Franklin, we've talked a lot about pulling people off the interstate and then drawing them into our downtown. I think this is just another component of that. And I don't know Quan personally, but his reputation precedes him. So I think that's a great partner for you guys, and I think it's an exciting project for Franklin.
I have two questions, but first, I embellish this project. I think has aesthetic value to the downtown area. The question first is, if you are going to entertain 500 people, do we have adequate parking in the area to handle that many vehicles and people? And then, go ahead.
On that front, currently, no. There's essentially, other than on-street parking with this, on Wayne Street currently, that building does not have, it does have some gravel drive and to the south of the building currently, by no means. That was how this project kind of grew, because initially we were looking at just the building and said with that square footage, and trying to attract and bring retailers, bring patrons to that area, they need a place to park. Hence, going to the property owners next door, and I neglected to say this, I guess, but all of the property owners involved in this have signed, none of their arms were twisted, that they were excited to be a part of this and have an opportunity to sell their property, hopefully to redevelop that. So that parking to the west that we discussed, that we'd like to buy those, give that back to the city, will provide some parking initially right to the building, as well as if the Wayne Street does get redeveloped. There's a schematic there that adds several new parking spaces on the street. And then for the event center, I know Quan, we've talked many times and we've had a great conversation with the city that part of his business will be to have the valet service. As people come to the events, they can pull up to the front door, and then we will hopefully use one of the other city parking lots. Most of the bigger events will be in the evening. They use the parking lot out here to the east of this building. There's also some property or parking on Quezon Drive, just on the south side of the creek. So that, as well as we've talked about the shuttle bus to and from some of the city lots as well.
The second part of the question was the timing. I know in my conversations with you, there was some timing issues, and I think this was a fast track project. You could address that.
Well, I like to see this happen before the end of the year. I'm already getting phone, in my facility, I have a small banquet facility. I turn away parties of 100s, 200s, 300s all the time. And I've done events outside of Oak and Barrel. I catered into the place. But, with holiday approaching, in 7 months, 8 months, I like to see this project get done, at least the event center part done before holiday season approaches. Because I'm getting, like I said, a lot of requests for the service.
Also, on that front, the purchase agreements, and specifically the garment factory itself, it is relatively on a fast track. We wanted to take advantage, try to get those things closed, and the agreements are written that we have limited time to act on those purchase agreements to get those properties secured and closed. And the intent there was to be able to use the summer months for some of the exterior renovation and work that we hope to be doing down there.
Richard, to answer the rest of your question about the timing, obviously Quan by the end of the year, but we have some due diligence to do on the east side in terms of marketing the space for retail and to market for condos. So those things will be ongoing as we gain access to the building 60 days after closing.
Mayor, would you just kind of give a little, as much as you can, of an overview of what your plans are or what your thoughts could be for Wayne Street itself?
Yeah, we have Trent Newport is here from, there he is, from Crossroad Engineers, and started preliminarily having them draw some schematics of what Wayne Street would look like. In addition, there's a handout that you received separate from the staple packet, which was, I just received late yesterday afternoon with some updates and some revisions. You'll see, I think there's an additional, I think we created another 105 parking spaces, somewhere around there, just along Wayne Street, and that 50 of those, almost half of those, was created with the demolition of those 4 homes that currently sit to the west of the garment factory. So the Wayne Street, I envision that to be a very similar mirror image of what you see on Monroe Street. So the project we tackled on Monroe Street a year and a half ago will be replicated on Wayne, including the nice street lights, the bollards, sidewalks, curbs, and a big component of this will also be drainage. One of the things we talked about is being able to utilize the proposed parking lot to access drainage to get it down to Young's Creek. So there's a little bit larger pull over that. So all the pink, the white is, everything outlined in pink is the new part. Those dollars would be separate. Fortunately, the Indiana legislature last week approved the distribution of our local income taxes back to the communities. Our proceeds from that will be, it is supposed to be redistributed or distributed back to us in May, and that is nearly $2.4 million back to the city of Franklin. Obviously, that's not a $2.4 million project there with the roads, but a portion of those dollars would be used for the redevelopment of the street and the new parking.
Schools do some of that too, not the city.
Schools, I think yesterday I looked, it was in the $350,000 range. I think I received an email over the weekend. It was distributed by the state. I think schools is about 350 to 380 in that number. So this is, as we've continued to redevelop our streets and our infrastructure in downtown, we have this, I keep referring to it as an onion, we're not really an onion, but we keep peeling back that layer. And so the Wayne Street has been on our radar. We've completed Monroe, we've completed Madison, we've done a lot of the other streets. Obviously Jefferson is the big project that's coming later this year, later in the summer. But Wayne Street is one of those that we haven't really, we haven't tackled yet. And so now is a perfect opportunity to do that. Also with the addition of the reconstruction of the South Main Street Bridge and rerouting of the trail underneath the bridge, we'll also add that enhancement as we move forward. But, I was thinking about, I was talking at home last night, and it kind of dawned on me that for the last several years, we've redeveloped, particularly facades, and done some low interest loans, the FTC has over the last several years, and we've chipped away a building at a time, to the tune of about $5 million. I think give or take. I know the original grant from the RDC was $5 million, dates back to the prior administration, and we've done a tremendous job for the FTC and the Redevelopment Commission. Here we have an opportunity to take down an entire block and redevelop the entire block and bring in a nice mixed-use project to the tune of probably about $1.4 million of investment from us. You saw earlier on the slide at 1.275. That, in my opinion, is probably going to need to grow a little because this project continues to grow in a positive way. And so I would recommend that the money come out of the TIF bond and we utilize about $1.4 million for those.
And logistically, how that works is that we have the authority to do that without a public hearing. I think in our whole philosophy with TIF proceeds, we we have been trying to keep that out in front of everybody in a way that enhances transparency, and so that we can not be shown as just dropping it on people and then just approve it at the same day. There has been some discussion amongst us Mayor, you're aware of it, and I know the gentlemen are as well, that we may not grant formal approval today, but I think what we might do is, we're just gonna talk about it right now, is perhaps set a meeting date, or we don't wanna wait until next month to do this, but maybe, I think according to legal counsel, we just have to give 48 hours notice before the meeting. And we were thinking about maybe about a 10-day cycle, but I think 10-day period, I think we're gonna run into some vacations when we do that. I'm wondering if a week from now, we might be able to come back in a special session in order to just formally endorse this project. How anybody feels about it, I'm just tossing it out there.
Yeah, we're, as Billy and Todd alluded to, there are with the purchase agreement, and I'm sure with the Garment Factory,
Right.
we're running up against the deadline at the end of this month. We're also running into spring break, which means half of Franklin leaves town, and we shut everything down for a week, self-included. That would definitely be helpful. I would love to be able to leave on spring break and know that this project is ready to roll. This, there's been a couple of projects in my last 4 years that have really got me excited. The Jefferson Street, King Street project, of course, is kind of one that we've coddled and helped along with Travis and Trent and other engineering firm for the last 4 years, really. This one is, I've had my eye on this building for redevelopment, just didn't really know exactly what it was going to look like. And like I said, we've had conversations with multiple developers. And Billy and Todd's proposal, I think, really personifies what Franklin is and what we can do at the next level. You've heard me talk a lot recently, particularly at the State of the City address, that we've done a lot of nice work with our infrastructure, and we're about halfway there. But it's time that we take a step forward and start these enhancing and stepping up our public-private partnerships. I think this is a perfect opportunity. We have a private partner that we're all familiar with, Billy and Todd. Whether you know Vaughn personally or not, I'm certain that you have indulged in his restaurant at some point, or maybe you've partaken in some of his beer. And so we're very familiar with this product as well. And although he doesn't live in Franklin yet, he is a Johnson County person. And so we're very happy to have all three of these partners to be Johnson County folks.
Just curious, how many hours have you put in on this project? I know you've been thinking about it, working on it for a number of years. So
Yeah.
It's not something that has just come about in the last couple of months.
No. This, like I said, we applied for Stellar Communities, and this would have been, we started the project, would have been in the fall of 2012 for submittal to the state in the spring of 2013. And then involved this project, and matter of fact, we were going to submit again this year until we determined that we were essentially eliminated due to the fact that we're an NPO community, and NDOT's kind of changed their rules with Stellar, and so it really didn't make sense for us to apply this year. So we decided we're going to create our own. We already have Jeff Street, King Street rolling. This is another opportunity here. This building was going to be the central focus, and I think it really sets off what our motto is: live, work, and play for a lifetime. There's live, there's work, and there's play all in one location.
I'm going to use this moment to make a disclosure. Rob, you may have to help me with this. I'm going to disclose that the bank that I represent has business relationships with the Beavis brothers. My understanding is that even though with that relationship, it doesn't prohibit me from taking a position and making a vote, but I think it's necessary that I make that disclosure at this time. And I think it's fair to say that you're both talking to a representative of our bank about this project as well. So that's out on the table.
I would like to stay with our policy of transparency and attempt to set a meeting for next week at the convenience of the RDC members.
Work with everybody? What day are you looking for? Possibly Tuesday? I haven't looked at my schedule, but I can be available. Then I know that Wednesday's not available. Thursday, we're gonna run into some vacations, I think. Monday's
Okay, Tuesday at 8 o'clock, basically I have meetings in which they start at 10 o'clock.
I think if we have a meeting at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, I think we can conclude this. Certainly, there'll be some discussion offered, if people want to have comments. So let's tentatively look at Tuesday at 8 o'clock.
I don't believe this room is being used. I know Thursday there's an FPC meeting.
It doesn't look like, on my calendar, it doesn't look like we're using it.
Bill, does that give you adequate time if we have this reconvene next Tuesday?
Absolutely. Yep. What's that? Yep. We will hopefully, per the agreement, start taking down some of the properties that started the second week of April. The residential properties. Also, and I know it's the backside, the one slide, the color slide of the facade of the building is on a easel out here. There's also a conceptual floor plan as well as a sketch of the east side that shows some of the condominium living. So we'll leave those out for the rest of the morning if you have interest in taking a peek at those.
I know on the event center, Juan spoke briefly about what his plans are, what he's going to do there. And I was fortunate enough to be able to hear him at length yesterday talk about what he's going to do. Got me even more excited. When you first hear event center, you're thinking, is that another place I can go grab lunch and those kind of things? It's not. But I can tell you right now that what Juan has planned and what he will be doing in that location will be a tremendous asset to Johnson County, not just Franklin. I don't know of too many venues in central Indiana that can host 500 plus folks. I know there's some things on the south side of Primo's and some other locations, but I can tell you right now that with the character that this building will be able to provide to the patrons, it will set itself apart from any other banquet hall or event center that is in a close driving distance to where we're at. And the events that Bob was talking about is going to bring a totally different demographic to our community. He specifically talks about a lot of doctors' events and different things of 200 plus people. And so it poses obviously a challenge to us with parking, but I think we've initially addressed some of those concerns. But I look forward to taking on this project, and I'm really excited.
I think a parking problem is like having a tax problem.
Yes.
If you've got enough income that you're having to pay taxes, is probably a good
Right.
problem. So
Yes.
I think parking problem is a good problem.
Very fitting month out.
If I understood the dollars, the 1.275 or 1.462
Correct.
is from TIF money.
Correct.
And the Wayne Street renovation itself from the tax notice will get back from the state.
Yes. So, yes, close.
Any other questions? We're all excited about the project and the process of moving this along. We'll plan to see everybody next week.
See you in a week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into resolutions. We have two. This is kind of a cleanup effort on our part, kind of go on record. I think everything we did was all legit, but I think this just creates a little bit better paper trail for the years down the road. So what we have are two resolutions to do. We've got Resolution 2016, which is a council, correct me if I don't state this properly, but this is it's a resolution authorizing the expenditure of tax increment bond funds for the $375,000 that was allocated to the Art Craft Theater. If you could give me a summary of this company out here, I'm sure.
Well, that's right. So a couple of months ago, you approved rehabbing the Art Craft Theater, $375,000. And I'm repeating myself, but my reading of the TIF rules suggests that whenever we can, we should have commercial rehab projects go through the FDC as a neighborhood development grant. So I am suggesting that you structure, both the art craft rehab and the Hoosier Brewing rehab, as grants from the RDC to the FDC, and then rehab agreements between the FDC and the user of the space. And then seeing Jeff this morning, it crosses my mind that I think I'm a little bit ahead of the board on both of those. They've not been officially approved. So that would go back to the FDC then next week at their meeting for approval.
So what we have to do today then is approve this resolution and grant agreement for actually for both projects. So given that, I think what we're looking for is a motion to read resolution 2016-12B by title only.
We'll make the motion to read resolution 2016-12B by title only.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have one question. Coming out of the bond fund, does that have any impact by us granting it to the FDC? The bond fund is a separate entity. And does that create any issue with us granting it to the FDC?
I'm not aware of all of the questions.
Any other questions? Those in favor of the motion to read by title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, explain to me on the public hearing part of this, we technically don't have to provide for a public hearing. But if anybody has any comments they'd like to make, we'll certainly entertain those at this point. It would make a difference, I suppose, but being none, we'll declare this part of the process closed and ask for a motion to approve the resolution. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Now we have the grant agreement between the Redevelopment Commission and the Franklin Development Corporation. And Rob, if you would just kind of summarize this as well.
That's the same template we've used on the prior projects. It essentially delegates the management of the deal to the FTC. If they don't get the deal done within a couple of years, they'll return the money to you.
And essentially, Krista will oversee a good part of this anyway, and I think as working at with the FTC as she would if it would be the RDC level. So it's basically just a title thing, more than anything else. Entertain a motion for approval of the grant agreement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion for approval of the grant agreement, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Move on to resolution 2016-13B, and this has to do with the $138,000 that was approved for the construction, rehabilitation, and repair of 151 Holiday Place, which accommodates the Hoosier Brewing Company that would be moving their operation to Franklin.
Richard points out to me that I've got a typo in the resolution. It's $138,000. But the third whereas clause has an incorrect number. We'll get that
We'll
fixed.
clean that up. We're looking for a motion to read by title only. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion to read by title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We'll now open it up for public discussion. Barnett, I know you got something right here. Nothing, okay. We'll declare this discussion period closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor of approval of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And finally, we have the grant agreement between the Franklin Development Commission, Redevelopment Commission, and the Franklin Development Corporation. For a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is approved. Okay, moving into other business, we've already done the HETSCO reimbursement discussion. Item 6B is an update on Shell Building 2.
With everything going on, we've decided to ask this to be back on the agenda for our next meeting in April.
So we'll be talking about the Shell Building status. Anything else, Richard?
No.
Any questions? Thank you. US 31 TIF update.
I can inform the RDC that the city council unanimously supported and approved the TIF request.
That'll come back next month for your final public hearing and confirmatory resolution.
So we're just about done with the TIF up there. Thought it occurred about maybe creating a Winning Street TIF today, but that's probably, that would muddy things a little bit, so did not interject that. Okay, anything else on the US 31 TIF? 6D is the 2015 annual report of the Redevelopment Commission.
With me,
Ronnie, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that will go to the, city council on March 21st.
Do you have a question?
do we need to approve that report into our minutes? I would make a motion that we approve the 2015 RDC annual report.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second. I think Keith got it in there just ahead of time. Any discussion? A motion, those in favor of approval of the motion for the annual report of the RDC, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is approved. Now, you notice today we have substituting for Krista, who I understand is in Florida right now, Ronnie Oliver, and I'll just offer her the opportunity for any comments concerning the financial reports, or if anybody has any questions, we'll be glad to bring them up. I don't plan to spend a lot of time on those at this point, but have those in front of you.
Ronnie, I'm going to ask one question.
Okay.
On the TIF fund bonds, the number 8, the downtown redevelopment project, I show that there's $1,275,000 left in the account.
I'm trying to get to that page. On the, not this page, that's up.
Yeah, it's through the bonds. It's downtown redevelopment project.
Is this what you're talking on this page?
With the blue, yes.
Yeah.
Number 8. And that was the amount that Venus has had in their proposal. That number is correct, that's what's left in the bond, TIF fund that we allocated.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The balance is $1,275,000 of TIF bond.
Of that 2 million?
Yes.
I know we allocated 375 for the art craft and the building there on the railroad street, so it would be the balance.
That's the balance, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Obviously, we're going to need to have some of it allocated from the 15 million in order to accommodate the additional if it's necessary.
Just where you come out.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the cash flow analysis worksheet. Those in the audience, you have any questions? Now that you've seen that? I think we do have have copies of, I know
Yeah.
we always have copies available. if you
There's
have
some
any
at the
questions.
end of the,
This is a document, I think, that we use to kind of keep just track of everything and just making sure we're not spending more than what we have.
and just a reminder that the TIF bond projects are not on here, they're on the other, the TIF bond financial report that we just looked at. The payments are on this.
All right. Anything else to bring up before the redevelopment commission? Any comments from the floor, Travis?
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Travis Underhill, city engineer. It's spring, so I'm starting to receive bids on various projects. We received one last week, Monday. And I would like to ask consideration for your next meeting resolution, and I'm ecstatic that you're having one just for me next week now. But King Street between Forsyth and approximately Community Park or Edward Street, bid last week, Monday. The engineer's estimate was about $550,000. Our low bid was $491,276.94. For Mr. Shaftstall's math, I would prefer we could write a resolution for about 10% more, which would be $540,000 even. We've got some issues under the subgrade in that street that when we dig up a 100-year-old street, we always find something, so I would like to ask that resolution for the next meeting.
This would be our April meeting, or are we talking about the one next week?
I'd like to start work by the end of the month, so next week would be great.
Do we have time to advertise for that?
Is this it's through the bond? This is through the bond.
Okay, through the bond. Okay, so we've got 2 items on the agenda then for next week. There's no objection from the other members? Okay,
Thank you, sir.
very good. Cheryl, anything? You got your annual meeting coming up tomorrow? And, okay, Janice, anything?
All's well.
I know the college moved their golf outing date, so that's good news for you, isn't it?
We
Okay,
appreciate it.
yeah. Anything else, Tara?
No, it was a great weekend at just Explore Downtown Franklin, so all the businesses were packed, so yeah, thanks for coming out.
That was done in conjunction with the college, wasn't it?
Yeah, Franklin College Family Weekend.
Very good thing. And, okay. I noticed we have Mr. Lugers in the audience. If you're looking north from Court Street, you might see him up on the 3rd floor, gazing out the window periodically.
Absolutely.
He's keeping too busy.
Waving at people going by. Got our new sign up on last
Sign looks
Friday.
great, yes. Who did the work on that building?
Bemis Group did.
Oh, that's right. All right. Anything else anybody else have anything? Not, we'll just call the meeting adjourned.